So, folks, I think it's very important as we go forward to make sure that we define certain words that we say so that there's no misunderstanding. Now, I've been kind of getting repetitive in my videos making these definitions and reciting them because I want people to understand that we don't just throw these words around loosely. We take them very seriously, and when we see things that resemble the definitions of these words, we call it out. So I just want to start off this video by reminding everyone of what the definition of authoritarian really means. Authoritarian is favoring strict obedience to authority, especially at the expense of personal freedom. And fascism is a governmental system led by a dictator having complete power, forcibly suppressing opposition. Trump just declared that he's going to sue the New York Times, by the way, and criticism, regimenting all industry, commerce, etc., and emphasizing an aggressive nationalism and often racism. So I'm going to be reading you this article here from the Associated Press, and as I read this article, just keep those definitions in mind. But before I do, I want to thank everyone so much for supporting what it is that I do here on the channel. We're on the road to 1 million subscribers, and we're growing every day, so I would love to get us there by the end of the year, and I do believe you can help me do it. If you like this kind of content, be sure and hit that button. It doesn't cost anything to do so. If you ever do want to throw a few bucks our way, we do have Patreon. We have members only, and you can also subscribe to my Substack. Now I'm starting to feel like Aaron Parnas. He always comes in at the end to plug his Substack. I love Aaron. Shout out to him, man. Stay healthy. Stay on top of things. He's the best. But here we go. Trump's travel ban keeps international students from coming to the U.S. for college. So with the Taliban barring women from college in her native Afghanistan, I can't pronounce this lady's name, set her sights on pursuing higher education in the United States. We'll say Sagari, I guess they say that. She was 21 years old. She practiced English up to 8 hours a day for several years, eventually winning an offer to study business administration at private liberal arts college in Illinois. She was hoping to arrive this fall, but her plans were derailed again, this time by Donald Trump's travel ban. Folks, I want to pause just for a second. It's truly admirable that someone would want to come to this country and would spend 8 hours a day learning another language. Do you hear how many people nowadays say, oh, they need to speak English if we're going to come to our country? My grandfather, who was a World War II veteran and a conservative and a Christian and voted Republican his entire life, he used to even say to me, you need to be learning other languages. You need to learn to speak other languages. He used to say that to me. He's like, we need to be ahead. We need to stay ahead in the world. We need to educate ourselves. He was always for that. So I think that's very admirable. But she said, you think that finally you're going to your dream, and then something came up and everything is gone. Thousands of students are among the people affected by the Trump administration's travel ban and restrictions on citizens from 19 countries, including many who now feel stranded after investing considerable time and money to come to the U.S. Some would be international students are not showing up on American campuses this fall despite offers from admission because of log jams with visa applications, which the Trump administration slowed this summer while it rolled out additional vetting. Others have had second thoughts because of the administration's wider immigration crackdown and abrupt termination of some students' legal status. And again, just a quick pause. You know, we used to celebrate people coming to this country to live the American dream. But Donald Trump came in immediately going against everything that Republicans back in the 80s used to say. You know, I remember living under a president who was a Republican who said, Mr. President, tear down that wall. And I grew up in an era being taught that walls designed to keep people out can also keep people in. But Donald Trump has been completely reshaping that narrative. Getting back to the article, but none faces bigger obstacles than students hit with travel bans. Last year, the State Department issued more than 5,700 F-1 and J-1 visas, which are used by foreign students and researchers, to people in 19 travel ban-affected countries between May and September. Citizens of Iran were issued more than half of the approved visas. The U.S. is still the first choice for many students. A 17-year-old student from Iran focused college search entirely on the U.S. No other country offers the same research opportunities in science, he said. He was planning to study chemistry this fall at Pittsburgh State University in Kansas, but had to shelve those plans because of the travel ban. His deferred admission until next year is holding out hope, and he's still preparing for embassy interview and reaching out to U.S. politicians to reconsider the travel ban's restrictions on students. I'm doing everything I can about it, he said. The travel ban affects citizens from 12 countries spanning Africa, Asia, the Middle East, and the Caribbean. It blocks people from obtaining new visas, although some citizens from banned countries are exempt, such green card holders, dual citizens, and some athletes. 7 other countries have tighter restrictions that also may apply to student visas. When Trump announced the travel ban in June, he cited high visa overstay rates and national security threats from unstable or adversary foreign governments as the reason for putting countries on that list. He has called some of the countries' screening processes deficient and said he plans to keep the ban in place until identified I can't talk today, are addressed. So, folks, I'll stop the article right there. And it's just truly sad to me that we've made it through all this when it comes to Donald Trump. He started off his whole thing on building a wall, and I couldn't believe it when I saw people cheering for that. And maybe it was just the age that I was at, or maybe it was the era that I grew up in of hearing about walls being torn down. But he started with building the wall, and it was all about the immigrants being the threat. And over time, he morphed it into education being the threat, and we saw him go after universities time and time and time again. And now he's stopping students from coming to those universities, and now he's worked his way around to it being the radical left, the enemy from within that should be rooted out like vermin. So when I think back on everything that I've said over the years, and I would get accused of being hyperbolic, or I would get accused of trying to ramp up hysteria or just get views or clicks. People would throw every accusation in the world at me. I always said, no, the reason I'm calling these things out is because if you really do study history and you understand how the dictators rose to power, then you'll see that they did start off over here and they worked their way over to where we're at now. And so I just look back and think back on all the countless videos that we've done talking about these things and saying how that it was going to lead to these things, and the people out there that were going, oh, no, they wouldn't do that. Oh, no, they wouldn't let him do that. Oh, no, I don't think he's really that kind of guy. Oh, you're just being hyperbolic. Oh, you're just being hysterical. Oh, those things would never happen here. Stop using the word authoritarian. Stop using the word fascist. Tone it down, Brando. No, I'm just trying to point out the obvious. And I really believe that that's what so many of us are trying to do. And, speaking of Aaron Parnas, he's one of my favorites. I follow him every day. He is a breaking news guy. He is someone who breaks the news for you, and he's very helpful in what he does. I'm someone who reacts to it, and sometimes I react to it after the fact. Sometimes a few days may pass before I talk about something. I was a day late talking about Charlie Kirk because I wanted to wait. I didn't want to give a knee-jerk reaction while I was sitting there having a beer and drinking sushi when it happened. I wanted to wait till I got home and soaked it in and heard more facts of the matter before I started blaming anybody, which I'm not the type of person that's going to start blaming people until I have the evidence. And then when you have the evidence in your hand and you can look at it and say, hey, wait a minute, maybe we need to take a look at these things over here. That's the way that I try to work here on the channel. I don't always come in with the breaking news because I don't feel that I'm a breaking news channel. I feel like that I'm a person who tries to make sense of the news, and I react to it a lot of times after the fact. So, yeah, some of my stories come out a few days late. Some of my stories break after they're old news. I try to stay on top of the breaking news as much as I can because I realize, hey, we're all talking about these things. But there's just certain cases where I say to myself, I'm going to wait a minute before I talk about this one. And so if you ever see a video and go, Brando, that story's about 3 days old. Well, that's why I was just taking a minute. I wanted to gather everything before I talked about it. That's just how I do it here on the channel, and I hope y'all can understand. But I'm a person who still does believe in the American dream, and I believe that diversity is a good thing, and I believe that people coming to this country to seek a better education is a good thing, and I think it should be applauded. And I think someone that spent 8 hours a day trying to learn how to speak English just so they could come here, I think that's admirable. And I think they should be allowed to come here, and I think they should be allowed to live the American dream without fear of being deported over the color of their skin or their accent. We had the Supreme Court rule that, yeah, they can just pull you over now and talk to you based on your accent or based on the color of your skin, going right against the Fourth Amendment. Then they get mad when we say they're shredding the Constitution. You have to call it out. You have to call it for what it is. This trying to tone it down, yeah, we're all about toning it down. We've been trying to tone it down. We've been trying to tone it down by bringing the facts and bringing the truth and bringing the real definitions of the word and waving the red flags. To me, toning it down also includes, hey, that ain't normal. Well, they have freedom of speech to say it. Anytime we would say, that's not normal, they're spreading misinformation. Oh, they have a right to say it. I buried 2 loved ones who passed away from COVID because people were saying, well, they have a right to spread that misinformation. But now those same people that are saying these doctors had a right to spread misinformation are going after people and doxing people who spoke out against Charlie Kirk. So much for free speech. But always remember, this is how I do things, folks. And I've done this ever since I was a kid. I look up words in the dictionary to see what they mean. And I go by the meaning of that word. And I'll close with a story that I've told here on the channel before, but we have had quite a few new subscribers, so I'll tell it again. The first time I ever heard the word liberal was in church. And I was a kid, and I'd never heard that word before. Didn't know what it meant. And so the minister preached a sermon, and when he was done, he is an older guy. He walked up to the microphone, and he said, well, I want to point out a really good friend of mine who came. I want him to come on up here. He said, come on up here. And the guy walked up there, and when the guy walked up there, it was someone who I would never expect being at the church. You just had to know him to understand why I say that. But the minister put his arm around him, and he said, this right here is my brother, and I love him, even if he is a liberal. And the audience laughed. And I went, what's a liberal? What is that? Went home, looked it up in the dictionary, and it said, someone who is open-minded and willing to change. And I never looked at that preacher the same way again.